Hello friends, this is Ray and welcome back to the Port of Indecision. Have you ever wondered what would it be like to be stranded on a cruise ship? Well, on our last cruise on the Celebrity Beyond, our cruise director Alejandro shared his experience when he was stuck on the Celebrity Eclipse for 3 months due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Alejandro will give us a first-hand look at what it was like to be a passenger and a crew member stuck on this ship for 3 months. He's also going to tell us how Celebrity took care of everybody to get everybody home safely and get ready for the next chapter of cruising.
We sailed from the port of indecision.
Welcome to the theater. It's like 2:32, so I'm kind of like 2 minutes late, but just waiting for everyone to fill in the theater. Until the theater doesn't fill in, I'm not going to start. No, I'm kidding. So, welcome. I promise 2 things. Number 1, you're going to find this fun and interesting, okay? I promise. It's obviously talking about the pandemic. I got stuck on a cruise ship for 3 months, and I'm going to share videos, pictures on how that is from the crew member standpoint to be on a ship while the pandemic hits. Now, this picture is the best picture that summarizes what it is for a crew to be on a ship during the pandemic. So, when the guests are all off the ships, they get the crew to go into the balcony cabins of normally the guests, and so we need to isolate. So we're in the balcony cabins. At least we have a very, very beautiful view. So they would knock on the door. So that's always a fun knock because you're always hungry and you know it's the food, because who else will knock on the door? So you open the door, you get the tray with the food, and you put it in the balcony, and you have a beautiful date with the food, the view, but on your own. And that is me when I was on the Celebrity Eclipse. Now, I wanted to bring to your attention, how do we go from this very happy picture that shows many cruise ships in town? This is actually St. Martin, 2016. I actually happened to be in one of those ships, the Celebrity Equinox at the time. People were getting off the ship, having fun, happy life. How do we go from this to that? But we're only looking at machinery, which is not so important. Look at the human side of things. How do we go from this modern, luxurious, super tall cruise director to this other one? And it's the same person. It's the same person, and if you ask me really in confidence, I will always prefer this guy over the other one. What movie does this remind you of?
Castaway.
How did I know that you would reply with Castaway, that very famous movie? That the next slide is the guy from Castaway. I'm not just pretty and tall, I'm very smart as well. You're not laughing? I had my coffee machine. Let me explain. So, March 2020, let me bring you back in time. The first few minutes of this presentation, I'm going to refer to the Celebrity Eclipse. We were there during the South American seasons. Has anyone been on that ship stuck with me and Captain Leo at the time? No? No? Anyone? No? Okay, good. Yes? Were you on that ship at the time that we got all stuck with Captain Leo and me? No. Okay. Good, so I can speak freely now. Last cruise, there were many guests that were there. I had to change the entire presentation. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so March 2020, this is the very last South American cruise that we did. The season in South America always is from December to March. And it's because that's our summertime in the Southern Hemisphere. So we were finishing the South American season. We were going from Buenos Aires in Argentina, coincidentally, where I'm from, all the way down south and then up north back again to Valparaiso, which is close to Santiago de Chile. So we were sailing from Argentina to Chile, 14-day cruise. Now these cruises are always very challenging cruises. Why? Because we got in South America, first of all, the longer the cruise, the harder it is for the crew. Because obviously if you think about the longer that you guys are on, the more you will expect, the more we gotta, try to make it different, better, and so on. For instance, a 3-day Caribbean cruise, that's the easiest, because you come on, 3 days later you leave, you didn't even have time to complain about anything. But on a 14-day cruise, But also in South America, because it's a very interesting place for so many people around the world, we normally have in South America, for instance, 300 Germans and they speak German. 300 French, they speak French in New France. And then we also have 300-400 Latinos, and they speak Spanish, and they expect everything to be in Spanish because they're sailing from Argentina to Chile to Spanish-speaking countries, so they want everything in Spanish. And we don't have anything here in Spanish. The only one that speaks Spanish is me, so guess who they complain to? The only one that can understand them. But not only that, we normally have like 400, 500 British people, and we don't even know what they speak. And of course, we got some Australian, American, Canadian, and so on. But so it's the whole world condensed into that one cruise ship, 14 days, 7 sea days, because the distances in South America between the ports of call are very long. So there's not too many ports that we can actually stop at. The Patagonia region, not too many cities. So yeah, it's always very challenging cruises. So I was on my very last and final cruise of the season. I was going to go home March 15, 2020, when we would arrive in Valparaiso. This was my last cruise of the season, and I was so ready to go on vacation. The virus was about to come, as you obviously it's a serious thing, but put yourselves back in time. March 2020, Europe was already suffering big time with the virus. Now the north of America, where most of you are from, they had some cases, but it was still the beginning of it, the beginning of March. In South America, we didn't have any cases, at least that we knew of. So we were still sailing, and I remember thinking, oh, this virus is coming, I'm going home March 15, I'm going home right in the right time. When I go back home, I have my mom, my dad, my auntie, uncle, they're very, very much older than me, because obviously I'm the youngest kid, the youngest of 3, so there's a big age difference and so on. So I remember thinking, oh, get me out of here. This is how tired I was, because in South America, the crew members in South America cruises, we really work like monkeys. But not just any type of monkeys. For instance, the crew members in a 7-day Caribbean run, they work like other type of monkeys, like these ones. They don't do nothing all day. But in South America, 14-day cruises, it's not easy. So yeah, I was exhausted, I was ready to go on vacation. I had all my luggages packed. This is too early in the cruise to conduct this. You don't know nothing about me, but I promise I have so many luggages. At the end of the cruise, you'll see, I have so many suits, so many colors. So I was ready to go home. March 15, 2020, Valparaiso. We were arriving at 3 a.m. in the morning. I had all my luggages packed. I was ready to go home. Yes, I can't wait for this. I'm gonna go home. I was worried about the pandemic, and here he comes. The phone call. Captain Leo, who coincidentally is the captain of our ship right here, right now, and I adore him with all my heart. I've worked with him too many times, many times. No, I mean too many times in a good way. I've been lucky enough to work with him. So, 3 a.m. in the morning, that morning, when I was going home, he called Alejandro, bridge announcement. Oh, what could be so important? The important announcement was Chile had closed the borders. Valparaiso is the port of Chile. I will lead you straight to the Santiago de Chile city and airport, where everyone flies in and out. So Chile had just had a few cases of COVID, so the government of Chile said, close everything. No one can come in or out of the country, including that beautiful cruise ship called Celebrity Eclipse with Captain Leo and Alejandro. So this was like at 2, 3 a.m. So we got the notification. We had to make the announcement at 3 a.m. in the morning. The announcement, obviously, Captain Leo. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Inside the staterooms. When it is an important announcement, we do the announcement inside your staterooms. So this was public address system announcement inside the stateroom, all over the ship. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Leo to let you know that, hey, the government of Chile has said no one can get out of this ship. So unfortunately, you cannot get out. We will be in constant communication with the Chilean government and with you to let you know what's going to happen. So yeah, no one can leave the ship. And then I had to speak Espanol to translate for the Espanol-speaking people that didn't have a clue what was going on. So we started calling for help. What are we going to do? It is important that I now share with you the following information. By March 15, 2020, all ships of our fleet, there's like 10 more at the time, it was a total of 11. All the other ships, by March 15, 2020, they had all canceled all their following cruises. All of them were in the Northern Hemisphere, either US or Asia or whatever, and all their cruises have already finished. So they had no more guests on board. The Center for Disease Control, when the pandemic started hitting, said, okay, no more cruising, get rid of the guests, but the crew must remain on board. So all the other ships, they had all the crew members on board. The only ship that still had guests on board was the Celebrity Eclipse with me and Captain Leo. So we started asking for help to the other countries very close to Chile, because Chile said no one can get out here. So we started calling all the other countries, hey, can we, get rid of the guests? And all the countries were like, no, thank you, no, sorry, we're also closing. The pandemic is attacking us as well. So guess the country that actually said, no problem, we can help you. Bring the ship to us and we'll let you, we'll let the
United States.
more than a country, no, better than Argentina, a republic.
Texas.
What was it? What republic?
Texas.
Not Texas, better than Texas.
China.
The Republic of California. Different than Texas, not better. I don't want to start any war. No, but so the United States said, the government of the US said, hey, you can bring the ship to our country. The state of California said, you can bring the ship to our state. The city of San Diego said, you can bring the ship to our port. We're going to open the port for you. You can dock here.
Change your
And
mind
then the
then.
guests will finally be able to get off the ship. The only that was a good news. The only problem was that how many days will that take? 15 extra days with the same guests that we have had for 14 already. And out of those 14 days, 7 sea days. Now, I think you can tell now, as a cruise director, I'm a big fan of matinee shows in the days at sea. Try to entertain them during the days in the days at sea. So on that cruise, we have already performed 7 matinee shows. All the guest entertainers that we have, they have already exhausted all of their entertainment options. We had nothing else. And to make it even worse, the day before, the port before Valparaiso, all of our entertainers have left the ship. We only had one guest entertainer. It was a band from the 50s and 60s. They would play music from the 50s and 60s. So I went to the leader of the band and said, man, we're going to need 15 more days. So I said to him, hey, we're going to need some more shows. And he said, of course, Alejandro, how many more you need? 15! Of course, we came up with some great ideas, but we were all panicking. What are we going to do with the same guests? Now what we're going to do to entertain them? That was me at the beginning. How are we going to entertain the same people?
Yep.
So I called my manager, Shoreside. This is my manager, Shoreside. No? It's just a joke, that is a joke. No, but we were like, what are we going to do with the same guests for 15 extra days that will all be sea days until we get to San Diego, California? I have worked previously in Cancun, Mexico, where the entertainment and doing activities and entertainment were, the entertainment was so much fun, the activities we were doing so much fun, but let's say, just to put it this way, safety was never a thing. So we didn't really, nobody ever wondered, hey, is this safe for our guests? So when I came to Celebrity, I said, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? And every idea I had, they said, oh, this is not safe. Yeah, I agree. So I called my manager and I said, hey, we're going to need to entertain these people. He was very aware of the problem here. We were the only ship that still had all guests on board, a full cruise with 3,000 guests on board, and we needed to enter. So he said, Alejandro, do whatever you want to do. Now, the moment you say that to an Argentinian is the moment that you know you're in trouble. I went backstage and I got all the costumes from the singers and dancers and I gave them to the guests. And we were doing all these dance classes by the pool deck area. I don't even know what I am dressed as. And you can see people dressed up as just anything. It was so much fun. The idea was to make sure that the guests are having fun no matter what. This is another picture. I'm the one in green, and we were doing the ceremony of the crossing of the equator because, from Chile to California, we needed to cross the equator. The equator, the imaginary line doesn't really exist. That divides the world in north and south, the north with you people and the south with the good-looking people. We needed to cross the equator, so we needed to do this ceremony. It was so much fun. The guests were having so much fun. They were enjoying. But also, these are other pictures of the fun games that we were doing that you can see they're not safe at all, but it was fun. The guests were having a blast. We came up with so many ideas. Even Captain Leo, who, as you will see this cruise, he's such a good sport. I called Captain, we need to do this. If you can please do this with me. We came up with so many comedy events and comedy shows. There was one night that the show was me and him just talking. You'll see how amazing he is. You'll be so impressed with how awesome our captain is. So we were just doing our very best to keep our guests happy. Now, Celebrity Cruises shoreside realized, hey, this is a big thing. We only have one ship in our fleet. All the other ships, no cruising anymore. There's only crew. By the way, the crew members that were in all the other ships, they were all posting pictures in social media. I've been with Celebrity for 15 years. I have so many friends in social media that are in different ships of our fleet. And they were all posting pictures in the different ships with no guests. So the ships, they were belonging to them, the crew. So they were putting pictures in the jacuzzi. And here I am in the jacuzzi. They were doing shows in the theater for them. And we were there working like monkeys for you people. So I remember, so Celebrity Cruises was like, okay, we only have one ship, the Celebrity Eclipse. They have guests there, and who knows for how long, maybe 15 more days. March 30 was the day that we were going to arrive in San Diego. So Celebrity said, let's make it special for these guests. They took some great decisions. Watch this. Decision number 1, free drinks. Unlimited drinks for every single guest on board. Even the kids were drinking. I'm kidding, we didn't have many kids. This was the last South American cruise of the season in South America. The guests are a little bit older, and so the only kids that we had were the kids with gray hair. But yeah, everyone was drinking unlimited. You would just go to the bar and say, I want another one. And yeah, people were happy. Not only that, they also decided to give everybody free internet. The pandemic is hitting now, the entire world. How important was for everyone to be connected. Celebrity said free Wi-Fi for everyone. Another decision was free laundry for everybody. I was doing the laundry of the people. And of course, the entertainment was great. We just kept the matinee shows every day. We kept the 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock show. It was so much fun. The guests were so happy. But we were just giving them free drinks. And then we realized, give them bread and circuses, and they will never revolt. It must have been an Argentinian, whoever first said that. But at the end, listen to the please, let me share with you this. You know how at the end of every cruise, the guest will fill in a guest questionnaire. We will send you the electronic guest questionnaire to your email addresses. Only when the cruise is over, and you have 7 days to complete it. From the moment the cruise is over, you have 7 days to complete the guest questionnaire. The guest questionnaire has questions on how your overall vacation experience has been. For instance, how did you enjoy the ship? Will you recommend us? How do you think about the entertainment, the food, and so on? So you have from 0 to 10 to rate us. On that particular cruise, the guests were not off. So normally the guests are filling in the guest questionnaire when they are off the ship, either in a hotel, in their houses, in an airport. In this particular case, they were still filling in the guest questionnaire while they were still on board with us, because they were trapped with us. They couldn't get out of the ship, right? And we were giving them free drinks. We broke the record of guest satisfaction. Every single guest were putting tails across the board. Please don't wait for another pandemic for you to recognize the crew members, please. So yeah, no joke. Jokes aside, they were so happy because they could see how the crew were going that extra mile to please the guests. Obviously, we were all stuck on the same ship together. So yeah, they were so appreciative of the efforts of the crew. Now, the question that I get asked the most is, guys, when you got stuck on the ship with the same guests for 15 more extra days, did you have enough food and drinks? Well, first of all, every time a cruise is over that same day, a new cruise begins. So we always have food, we always have drinks. But on that day, when the Chilean government finally said, no, you cannot stop here, no one can leave, we got a container with food and with drinks, and we went on to California. Now, so we had enough food and drinks, but we still got that container with anything that we may need. Also, the good news, there were only 2 Australians that cruise. No, because if we would have had more than these 2 Australians, we would have certainly run out of beer. But we only had 2, and we had enough beer for both of them. The one thing that we did not have was medications. If you think about the guests, they came on board for a 14-day cruise with their enough own medications to last 14 days. They didn't know that the 14 days was going to end up being almost a month. So they didn't bring medications for themselves. They started reaching out when we informed of the plans. Hey, we're going to go to San Diego. This cruise is going to be over March 30, in the best case. The guests started reaching out to guest relation desk saying, hey, I don't have enough medication. I cannot make it till March 30. So we had to make so many announcements. Captain Leo was so unbelievable, keeping all of our guests informed of anything that they needed to know. So the announcements were, These two specific days were Celebrity Eclipse. Ladies and gentlemen, if you need any medications, come to guest relations desk, tell us exactly what you need, and we're going to do our very best to get it. So we started reaching out to all countries. The only country that has helped was, guess?
United States.
No, Ecuador. Because we were on our way from Chile to San Diego, California. We stopped by Ecuador, and Ecuador said, no problem, we'll get the container with all the medication that the guests have asked. And then after visiting Ecuador, Manta, this place in Ecuador, we got all the medications on board. We started delivering the medications to all of our guests. And hey, we didn't even charge the guests. Celebrity paid for the medications. Yes, I had so many guests at the time, later on, a few days later, that said, oh, if I would have known it was for free, I would have asked for some more doses. That's just a joke. That never really happened. But I'm sure many of our guests have thought that way. So we gave them the medications. 3,000 guests were so happy. But of course, we couldn't wait for March 30 to come. March 30, 2020 was the day that we were arriving in San Diego, and finally the guests could get off. But of course, we knew that the crew will have to remain on board because the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, said crew members must remain on board until further notice. Who knew when that would be? But so at least the guests can get off on March 30. Now, so the guests were so happy because if you think about it, most of our guests are from the Northern Hemisphere, whether it is US, Canada, or Europe. So we were actually taking them much closer to their home for free, entertaining them, giving them free drinks on a cruise that they didn't even have to pay for. So the guests were happy. I remember I couldn't wait to be in that gangway saying, all right, everybody, March 30, let's get out of here, get out of here. Now, I say everyone was happy except for there's only one exception. Guess which nationality of guests they were really not happy with this? Okay, good point. South America. Yeah, well, by the way, I didn't say, but the last day before we left Chile, the Chilean government said, the guests that you have on board that are from Chile, they can get out. So there's 70 guests that were from Chile, they actually got off the ship. Now guess the people that were not happy, the people from Argentina. The guests that were from Argentina, they certainly were not. These are just pictures of famous Argentinian people. They were not happy because imagine, we're taking them from the end of the South American world, right next to Argentina, from Chile, all the way to California in the middle of a pandemic. And to make it even worse, when we informed them of this, we informed the American government and said, hey, we're taking 3,000 people all the way to San Diego. The American government said, okay, what about these Argentinas? 129 Argentinian guests. They have no visa. We started communicating, they had no visa. Because they booked a cruise from Argentina to Chile. They traveled with their governmental ID, driver's license, because that's kind of like if you go from France to Italy in the European, you don't need anything else. You don't need a passport. They didn't even have passport or visas. So they were not allowed in the United States. So the government of the US said, hey, these 129 people that look like Alejandro, they cannot get out of the ship when we get to San Diego. Imagine these people, and who had to tell them? No, terrible. They were really worried, obviously, in the pandemic hitting, now the pandemic is hitting everywhere. So March 30, now we know we're not even going to be able to take any pictures in any jacuzzi because we're going to have 129 Argentinian guests still on board. But hey, we go to San Diego March 30. This was great. The guests got off the ship except for the 129 Argentinian guests. The guests got off. The Argentinian guests were given the good cabins of the penthouse, the royal suites, the celebrity suites, the Alejandro suites, all the suites. That was great. But hey, at 9 p.m. that night, actually it was April 1st, so the following day, Captain Leo, another call, Alejandro, bridge, announcement, important. I was like, what could be so important? The guests that got off the ship in March 30, they were testing positive for COVID, whether in their houses, airports, or wherever else. So we started receiving notification that many of the guests that were on board with us were testing positive, which told us we got COVID on board. So the announcement of Captain Leo was Celebrity Eclipse, dear guests, 129 Argentinian guests that wouldn't speak any English, so I had to do the announcements in Espanol. And to the crew, we were 1,000 crew members, everyone isolation immediately, except for the essential crew members. So when we're talking about essential crew members, we mean the captain and his team, they need to navigate, the engine control room, the engineers in the engine. I don't know what they do, but I'm pretty sure it's important. Somebody to cook, somebody to clean, and so on. Those were the essential crew members. All the others, including me, isolation straight away. So we got isolated for hopefully 2-3 days. This is my world for hopefully 2-3 days. It ended up being months. I took my coffee machine that you can see in the upper left-hand side corner. This is the guest cabin with a balcony. The balcony was beautiful. This is the view of my balcony of the port of San Diego. This is another beautiful view. And let me now bring you back in time. Now we're talking about the first days of April on 2020. The whole world was at a full stop. There were no more guests on board, only crew, apart from the 129 Argentinian guests that were also isolated in our ship. So the city of San Diego this is a picture I took from my balcony, completely empty. And in Argentina, we have this government that was so strict with the pandemic, said no one can move from the apartment. In Buenos Aires, the big city where all my family is, I got 3 nieces and nephew, brother, sister-in-law. They were with the 3 kids. They're in the apartment, stranded, so boring, fighting against each other, as you can remember, right? You cannot get out of the apartment. Everyone starts fighting with each other. And I can see the same was happening in San Diego, because San Diego is empty. Everyone is in their apartments. No one can leave the city except for, and you can see that one person right here. You see this one guy there, the runner? I'm pretty sure the same thing was happening in San Diego, because that guy, I'm pretty sure he's running away from his wife. No one else is in the city of San Diego. I remember I even shared this picture with my family at the time, and they were saying, hey, Alejandro, what are you complaining? We're all stuck in this apartment together with all the family. What are you complaining? Look at the view that you have. Shut up! I don't even know if I am ever going to see you again. So yes, then I put the flag in my balcony. I looked at pictures of mountains. I took 2 decisions not to cut my hair or shave my beard. I was very successful at both. 3 weeks later, the Argentinian guests that were still on board in isolation, we came up with a solution for them. Celebrity Cruises working together with the American government. The American government said, we can give them a transit visa so they can get out of the ship, go straight to the airport of San Diego, and then say that they get out of San Diego. So Celebrity came up with a great idea. Argentina was completely closed. The government of Argentina said, no one can get into or out of our country. So they came up with a better idea. Brazil, I don't want to get too much into politics, but Brazil, they had a president at the time who was very much open. So everything in Brazil was open. So Celebrity said, let's fly the 129 Argentinian guests to Brazil, Sao Paulo is our neighboring country, and then let's have them wait there in a hotel, specific hotel. Celebrity paid for everything. A charter flight from San Diego to Sao Paulo, the hotel rooms for 129 Argentinian guests, everything they needed, food, medical attention, and they needed, until the Argentinian government would say, okay, you can bring these people, which ended up being 11 days later. Celebrity paid for every single thing. So this is a picture of a very historical moment. Me from my balcony, we're letting all these 129 Argentinian guests in this boat, because some days we were docked in the port of San Diego. Some other days we had to get out of the port to allow another ship to dock in the pier, and so on. So we were at a specific distance from the shore side of San Diego. We put the boat, 129 people there, took them to San Diego, to the airport, charter flight to Sao Paulo, and so on. Now look, why do I say Celebrity takes such great care of you? This picture really summarizes it. These are 2 Argentinian guests. It's a couple of Argentinian guests that were stranded with us on that cruise. When the Argentinian government finally said, okay, you can bring these people home, Celebrity paid for another charter flight from Sao Paulo to Buenos Aires. Now these 2, they were not from Buenos Aires. They were from Mendoza. Mendoza is a city next to the Andes Mountains, close to Chile. They were right there at the very beginning. So they needed to cross the entire Argentina country from Buenos Aires to Mendoza, which is so far away, 12 hours in a car, but they needed to go. The planes were not working in my country. There was 0 commercial flights. So Celebrity had to pay for a jet plane for only these 2 people to fly from Buenos Aires to Mendoza, as if they were LeBron James and his wife. And I'm pretty sure by the looks of these 2 that they cannot play any basketball. This is how Celebrity Cruises took care of all of our guests. This is another guest that shared the picture with me. They were having lunch in the aisle of the plane. because there were zero airports. The airports were not open. Everything was closed. Celebrity managed to get airplane charter flights to get them from Buenos Aires to wherever city they were from all around the country. The only joke that the guests had was, as soon as they get home, dear celebrity, we're home. Thank you for everything. Celebrity would reply, glad you're safe. We'll let you know when we go back into operation. So celebrity took such great care of every single guest. In the meantime, my hair was growing. Look at my hair there. If you don't like my hair now, it can always be worse. So please appreciate what you have in front of you. Communication started, because now it's only crew members, but we still needed to remain in isolation on the Celebrity Eclipse. So everyone isolated in one cabin. They gave us free internet, of course. So now this is how communication started. That's me up there, my nieces and nephew there, my uncle, my mom. My mom lives alone in Argentina, Buenos Aires, where every one of my family members are. There was a strict quarantine. No one can get into the apartment of anybody. So my mom was alone in her apartment, and she did not know how to set up the computer. She talked to us like this for 2 weeks. And I know you're laughing because the same thing must have certainly happened to you. It happened to me too. So yes, a good thing is that with this me with my camera, every time we would set sail in and out of San Diego, we would see dolphins. So that was good. I remember sharing that with my family. And one day, Captain Leo comes to the public address system. Dear crew, the crew of the Eclipse, 1,000 crew members were all still stuck there. Good news, there's no more COVID on board. We now allow you to get out of your cabins, go to the buffet, get the food, and then continue the isolation in your cabin. For us, it was like going to Disneyland. This is me with my camera. They put X's in the floor to keep social distance in the Ocean View Cafe. These are all the crew members. Everyone was given a mask. Social distance was needed. We go there, get the food, eat the food, and then go back to our cabins. This is another picture. These are the lines of crew members going to get the food into the Ocean View Cafe. They divided us. There's 1,000 of us, so they needed to divide us in 3 groups: the early group, the normal group, and the late group. And so so that we don't all go together to get the food. So that's the line all across the pool deck area and the Eclipse going up on the buffet on deck number 15. Ship, the one that I thought she was on, was coming into San Diego. I saw it from my balcony. I said, hey, you in San Diego coming in? She said, yes. And the ship is arriving. And I was like, oh, I'm here too. And she was like, let's meet. I can't even get out of my cabin. But she said, oh, we can get out. So I said to her, why don't you come to the pier and at least we can wave at each other. And she came to the pier, she took this picture, we waved at each other, and this is as much fun as I had for 4 months. I told you were gonna find this funny. This is how the ship looks like during quarantine. So I got around the ship taking pictures. I knew that eventually someone would want to see what a ship looks like during a pandemic. How sad it is. This is referring to the first days of isolation. We got out of isolation and we can go around the ship, and this is how the ship looks like. It's super dark, there are no guests, crew members cannot even enjoy the ship either because we were all in isolation and so on. This is what it looks like. That's the future vacations office on deck number 5 on the Eclipse. We had to put blankets on top of the furniture so the furniture wouldn't get damaged. Then this is the Albacio Cafe. This is the Rendezvous Lounge, one of our beautiful bars and lounges. This is the casino. And this is the Martini Bar, always a jovial place. Look how sad it is. These are pictures we don't ever want to see again on a cruise ship. Then, suddenly, the good news came on. The Center for Disease Control says to all crew members stuck all around the world in their own ships, all the companies, now the Center for Disease Control says crew can finally go home. This was a beautiful news for all of us. But the problem, most of the countries where the crew are from, they all were closed. For instance, most of our crew members are from developing countries, let's say. We were all closed. Our own governments were like, no one can get in or out. We're dealing with big stuff here. So we were not even allowed in our own countries. So the problem became now called the repatriation of our crew members. All the companies were on the same program. They had all the crew on board. The crew were not allowed in their own countries. So we have a problem. We had to keep these crews safe. Obviously, so all the companies, Celebrity, but all the others, they had to keep all the crew in their ships. And of course, the priority became repatriate the crew as best as we can. These are the crew waiting to go home. The companies of the different countries listening to the ambitious program plans of repatriating the crew from different countries, brainstorming, and finally there was this wonderful idea. two islands in the Caribbean, Barbados and San Martin. They said to Celebrity and Royal Caribbean, we work together. And they said, hey, you guys have been so good to us during the last decades. We're now going to do something wonderful for you, helping you repatriate the crew members to the different countries where they're from. They said to us, and Celebrity picked Barbados, come to our country, Barbados. We're going to open our airports. We're going to open the ports. You can bring your ships. You can fly your crew from wherever they're stuck on now. Bring them to Barbados. Put your ships here. Put the crew in the ships and wait until the different governments of the different countries that we, the crew, are from, open, and then they can go home. This is exactly what we did. Celebrity was so thankful. Celebrity picked Barbados. And so this is the day that I finally get out of the Eclipse. And look, it was 3 p.m. You can tell by daylight. I got out of the ship. I knew it wasn't going to be a good, easy ride home because I knew I was going to have to go to Barbados, quarantine on another ship until the Argentinian government would say, okay, you and the rest of the crew from Argentina can come home. But hey, look, we were waiting in the terminal, the cruise terminal. Celebrity had arranged for buses to take crew members from the cruise terminal to the airport, which is only 10 minutes away from the port terminal. The airport of San Diego, if you're familiar with it, is very close. The buses at the time did not want to come because they didn't want to drive, the drivers didn't want to drive the buses with crew members coming out of a cruise ship that had tested for COVID. So, there was this kind of controversy in the local community. Nobody wanted to accept crew members that would come out of a ship because we were kind of like bad news for the local communities. But hey, I don't know how Celebrity managed to finally got people to drive those buses. We went to the airport. This is me with my own camera filming the moment that we were escorted by police officers from the bus. This is me from my window, escorted by police officers from the cruise terminal, eventually, kind of like midnight, straight to the airport of San Diego. When I say airport, the runway, because the airport was already closed. And this is the place I took. This is the buses. You see the buses? Those are the buses that transported the crew. This is in the middle of the runway. The airport of San Diego was not working. There was no terminal. For us, the terminal was closed. So we were taken to the middle of the runway where the plane was there waiting for us. Celebrity managed to get a plane for the crew to go fly to Barbados. So the buses were there. The police cars were giving us light so that we would be checking the equipment that we get, the bags and so on. We go into the plane and off we go to Barbados. This is another video that I took. You can see the plane. These are the crew members waiting one by one by different last names and by the letter of the last name to go into the plane and so on. This was like 1 a.m. You can see the city of San Diego in the back. These are the crew members waiting to board the plane and so on. Now, important to mention, the plane had no flight attendants. They didn't want to work with crew members coming out of a cruise ship, so we didn't have that. I don't judge them, I super understand. At the time, nobody knew what was going on, so there was no flight attendants in that plane. The charter flight, the Celebrity out of nowhere, managed to get from San Diego all the way to Barbados. And so 300 crew members, most of us were from South American countries and also East European countries. Then we were into Barbados. They divided us in different ships according to the nationality. Now, what was I going to say? Oh, so there were no flight attendants, but I'm guessing there was a pilot because we made it to Barbados. Now, Celebrity Cruises also had some other great ideas. With Philippine crew members, we have so many crew from the Philippines, so they were all put in one specific ship, and we sailed with all Philippine crew members from wherever that ship was, all the way to the Philippines, and all the Philippine crew, they got off in Manila, they went home. And because there were so many of them. Another ship with so many crew members from India, the whole ship filled with India crew members, they all sailed all the way to India, and they got home. I guess Argentina was not so important. Do you want to see a picture of the Philippine crew members arriving in Manila?
Yes.
You sure you want to see?
Yes.
I must warn you, the crew members have changed a lot during the pandemic times. This is a picture of the Philippine crew members arriving in Manila. If you have to go, I understand. I don't feel bad. I understand there's plenty of things to do. So yes, please. Okay, so why do I say Celebrity takes such great care of you? Not only you, but also the crew. Crew members didn't have to pay for not even $1. Celebrity took care of absolutely everything. Celebrity's promise was every single crew will get home. We will get them home. We will pay for everything. You don't have to worry about nothing. So there are crew members that live in the middle of nowhere, Celebrity took every single crew to their houses. The only job we had was to, as soon as we arrived home, in our house, say to Celebrity, hey, I'm home, thank you, I arrived home, safe, and Celebrity would reply, I'm glad you're safe, we'll let you know when we can come back into operation. This is June 6th, the day I finally got home.
Wow.
I rented an apartment next to my dad and my sister. I needed to quarantine for 14 days. After the 14th day, me and my sister, we said, let's rent, I think you'll find this funny, let's rent the apartment next to my nieces and nephew with brother and sister, their dad and mom, because they were stranded in this little apartment, all five of them, and the kids were so bored. So we decided to rent the apartment right next to them and surprise them in the middle of the night. So this is the moment that we surprised them. I am filming here from the apartment next to their window, next to them, and look at the surprise. This is me with my camera. That's my niece, my other niece, my sister-in-law, and here comes my nephew. That's my brother. This is the moment that we surprised them. Hey, this is Uncle Alejandro and Auntie Eleonora, my sister. And now the quarantine in Argentina will be fun for them. Okay, games all quarantine long and so on. Then the government of Argentina said you can travel around the country. So I went straight to the mountains. This is how much I needed the fresh air to the mountains. I even met my other half. Can I share my other half? I met her in the mountain. You never know. I'm out of a negative situation. What could come out? You want to see my other half?
Dog. Yeah.
It didn't last long. He ran away. He got next to me, ran away. Story of my life. That's how much I needed fresh air and so on. Meanwhile, and let's get serious now. This is what the companies are doing. This is what the pandemic did to all cruise lines. Now all the ships are stuck, no guests. All the ships needed to be manned. You cannot just tell the ship, hey, we're going to be back when the pandemic is over and nobody in the ship. No, we needed to be manning the ships. Every ship needed to have approximately 100 crew members, depending on the size of the ship. So again, the essential crew needed to remain on board. Those were the lucky ones because they had jobs.
Celebrity ships.
So captain and the bridge team, engine and the engineers, some people to cook, some people to clean, but obviously nobody from entertainment, nobody from casinos, spa, and so on. There are no guests, so only essential crew. This was a typical day during a pandemic. So many cruise ships dropping the anchor. Why? Because it's cheaper than actually being docked on a port of call. When you're docked on a port, you have to pay the port. Now, during the pandemic, so many days that the ships have no income, they needed to remain close to a city in case they needed any medication or anything specific. So this is what it was typical at the time. You want to know for how long? 15 months.
Wow.
Skeleton crew is what we call the crew. Sounds like a joke, but it's not. Skeleton crew is what we call during the pandemic for 15 months, the ships needed to be manned. So we call it skeleton crew. Those were, again, like I just said, the lucky crew members because they still had a job. The other ones, we were all waiting until we could eventually return into operations. 15 months was the total. The anticipation was unbearable. Celebrity took such great care of all of our crew members, keeping us informed on when we can ever return to service, what were the communications with the different governments and the CDC and just anything. Celebrity was so amazing. Yeah. I need to do this presentation a little bit faster. I remember we were all thinking, okay, whenever we return into service, I was thinking, oh, I hope I don't get called because all this isolation, I didn't want to go through it again. But yeah, one day, I'm in the mountains and my manager calls me, Alejandro, you ready to come back? Come back where? Well, we got a ship, we're ready, we want you to be there. And I was like, why me? And he said, well, remember how in the Celebrity Eclipse you guys broke the records of guest satisfaction? We want you to be the first one back. And they called me for the Celebrity Millennium. The Celebrity Millennium was going to be the very first ship. We're now talking about June 2021. So again, a total of 15 months from the Celebrity Eclipse in South America that ended on March 30, all the way till June, the beginning of June 2021, when the Celebrity Millennium would open. And they asked me to go as a cruise director. That this is exactly what I did not want to deal with. Because this is how you go in the middle of a pandemic. The first ship, there's so many protocols. People dress like that, tests every week. Quarantine upon arrival. Upon arriving in the ship, 14 days quarantine. On day 14, they do the test. If you test positive, 14 more days quarantine, and so on. And of course, we were sent way earlier to get the ship ready. We were doing all kinds of duties. That day, the bread did not taste well. Celebrity was so nice to San Martin, and they said, hey, San Martin, you are so good to us, San Martin and Barbados. So Celebrity said the first ship back into operation, we're going to take it to San Martin, and it's going to be a 7-day Caribbean run. The problem were the vaccines. The Center for Disease Control said you can return to service, and by the way, Celebrity Cruises was the leader in the efforts to return to service amongst all cruise lines. Celebrity was the #1 company fighting as hard as possible to return into service. So the Center for Disease Control said every single person on board needs to be vaccinated, fully vaccinated, not only the guests, but also the crew. The guests were also vaccinated, were already vaccinated, because you guys are all coming from normally the US or Canada, you guys have vaccines. The problem were the crew. In the countries where we are from, developing countries, let's say, the vaccines were not still available yet. So Celebrity was like, what are we gonna do? So San Martin said, no problem, just bring the ship to our island, and we will provide how many vaccines you need? Well, 700 vaccines. Okay, 700. So 700 crew flew to San Martin, me amongst them, and we were there waiting for the vaccines that the government of San Martin said, no problem, we'll take it. Waiting. June 4 was coming in and we were still not vaccinated. We were waiting for these vaccines forever and still waiting. Hurry up, because it's time. The only vaccine we were enjoying was the Russian vaccine. So one day we were so close to the deadline, the guests coming on board. So Celebrity said, you know what is going on with the vaccines? San Martin government said, I don't think we can give you the vaccines, because what happened was the people from San Martin that was hoping to get the vaccines found out that the government of San Martin had the vaccines ready for the people that were on the ship in front of them, but not for them. So they were into trouble. So one day the government of San Martin said, man, we don't have the vaccines. So Celebrity said, no problem. They took a decision. Guess the country that vaccinated all of our crew in less than 2 hours. Guess, please.
United
United
States.
States.
Somebody mentioned it earlier.
Texas.
Better than California.
Texas.
Texas.
No.
You know, they make fun of the Texans. I think they're pretty cool, because we sailed the ship to Galveston, and in only 2 hours in the morning, we all got the vaccine of the Johnson & Johnson, which was only 1 dose. 14 days later, we were fully vaccinated, ready to receive the guests. So it was great. We were the only ship. The problem was, we were the first ship in the Northern Hemisphere was Celebrity Millennium. Celebrity was the pioneer, the best on doing the efforts to return to service. We were the very first one in the entire Northern Hemisphere. So we sailed out of San Martin. The problem was that there was not so many guests, because guests were not sure this was a good idea, right? So we only had 500 guests. It was really looking like a
must have been
ship.
cool.
I remember I was in the gangway welcoming everybody. Hey, thank you for choosing us. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you. They had no other option. We were the only ship. And also look at the audiences. This was the audiences. And we had to do 2 shows to separate them. Then finally, because then we were getting feedback from the guests saying, oh, it's not easy for us to go to San Martin. So then we decided to take the ship to Alaska. Things have gotten way better, as you know. Then we started opening different ships, and things are so much better. And we're so happy to have so many of you and having fun with not so many protocols and regulations and so on. Stronger than before. Why do I entitle this presentation The Greatest Comeback? For a simple reason. If you think about Celebrity Cruises, not only we didn't get rid of any ship that we already had, but now, after the pandemic, we have more ships than before.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, if you think about the Celebrity Apex was only opened after the pandemic. The Celebrity Beyond, I don't know if you heard of that ship. We opened after the pandemic. And the Celebrity Ascend is opening now in a couple of days.
There you go.
And the Celebrity Excel is opening soon. So Celebrity certainly came back way stronger than before. So it's a testament to that. For instance, that lady, our leader, the Eclipse, she was the president for Celebrity Cruises, Lisa Lutov-Perlo. Now we have another one, but she has fought so hard for the crew, for the company to be there, for us to open on time. I love Celebrity. I think it's clear that I love, and I hope you share the love for Celebrity Cruises. Something about appreciating each other. So after the pandemic, we realized that we appreciate each other more. Because, for instance, I remember that first night on board Celebrity Millennium with only 7 people in the audience. I went out there and I said, hey, the first night we came back into operation, I said, I never thought I would ever say this, but I admit it. We've missed you. And then I said, hey, we realized we cannot live without you. Nothing. Yeah, so they laughed at that. And then But then I realized that it goes the two ways. You guys also missed us so much because you wanted to come cruise again. So there's a lot of appreciation. Please appreciate the crew and the efforts that they do for you. If you have any questions, you can find me on Instagram. I don't need anything, but if you do need anything or you want to know anything about the pandemic or anything else, you can find me there, Cruise Director Alejandro. And I hope this was fun. Thank you for your time, and that's all. Thank you for coming to the presentation, and I hope it was fun for you.